Hello, this is Jer. I'm playing Oxygen Not Included. In this episode, I'm going to take you through the process I did to get the GMO A-OK Achievement, which requires you to analyze one mutation of every plant that can mutate. So the first thing I have to do is discover how does a plant or seed mutate. And I've got two theories. They both involve radiation. One theory is the seeds themselves being exposed to radiation will convert into the mutated form. The other is the plant that is going to produce the seeds. Being exposed to radiation will convert or will produce a seed with mutation. I suspect it's going to be the latter, but I've got to verify that by doing a little bit of testing. So what I've done is just put a container which I'm going to put several different seeds into, and just put them next to Wheezy worts, and just go do some other things and see if they ever mutate. Here's a bonus experiment. What happens when a rad bolt smashes into a seed? So smash that into some seeds there on the ground. It doesn't appear to have done anything. Oh well, worth a shot. Regardless of what way I'm going to produce these mutated seeds, I'm going to need a botanical analyzer and a dupe that has the double farming skill so that they can actually operate it. So when a mutated seed exists, they'll bring it here. So I'll set this at a high priority, give it some lights with the automation, and then this will, as long as I get one of every different type of seed that can mutate analyzed here, I'll get this achievement. So this experiment here tests whether the plant itself being exposed to radiation will cause some mutated seeds. So in the middle of these Wheezy worts, I'm going to put, or Wheezy worts, in the middle of this sleet wheat, I'm going to plant a Wheezy wort, which produces radiation. I'm going to see over time if this causes one of the Wheezy worts to mutate a seed. If that's the case, then I think it's radiation being exposed to plants is going to be what I need to do. So it seems like that latter experiment was the successful one, exposing radiation to plants with a Wheezy wort, or other forms of radiation for that matter, will cause them to drop mutated seeds. So I've got sleet wheat analyzed. Also, mealwood became mutated on a different planetoid, and I think that's because it was growing near the surface, which had radiation. So there you go. That's what I'm going to have to do with all the other plants. So far, I've got two of them checked. I'm going to have at least one of my dupes have the double crop improved farming 2 to actually analyze these. All right, here is one of my dupes operating the botanical analyzer. They analyze the sleet wheat. Now they're doing the next one. They keep pointing to the screen. No one else is looking, but that's all right. They accomplished their analysis either way. So what effect does this have on the seeds themselves? For the sleet wheat, there are different variations you can get. It can reduce the life cycle that they grow in, which is what I have for this particular one. I've seen higher yields. Usually that comes with more resources being needed, but it's such that it produces more yield than the extra resources that go into it. So it is a benefit. They often, though, will need to be grown in a radiation high area, so something to be aware of. The other thing that is difficult about analyzing sleet wheat is that A, sleet wheat can go bad over time, and B, it can be cooked and be consumed. So I actually turned off my gas range while I was doing this analysis, just to make sure that it gets analyzed and not turned into pepper bread. So now that I know how this works, I'm going to continue this process of mutating plants. Next will be the pincha pepper plant. So Wheezy wort will go in the center here, and hopefully over time I will have a mutated seed of this form. So I've located the mealwood that has mutated on another planet, so I'll send someone over there. This is also proof that wild plants also produce mutated variants. So not too long, my pincha pepper plant has mutated a seed. I've analyzed it, so this is proof this system is working. And once I have that, I'm going to tear the Wheezy wort out of there and replace it with the additional pincha pepper plant that used to be there. Next is mutated mushrooms. I'm going to grow some mushrooms around a Wheezy wort. I'm going to have slime stored underneath it for my dupes to be able to supply the mushrooms with that. And I built the wrong machine, so I'm going to switch that out for a farming station. So I'm going to do a similar thing here, this time with bristleberry, with the wheezy wort in the center. It's going to require light as well as water going into that. Just note, all these are having farming station built, because the faster they grow, the faster they'll produce seeds. They'll mutate, and I'll be able to tear them down and concentrate on something else. After I've analyzed bristleberries and mushrooms, I'm able to tear them down. Next is bog bucket. That requires polluted water. Making good progress, but there's still a way to go. Anytime I'm on a space mission and I discover a seed that I haven't encountered before, I make sure a few get on my rocket before I go back home. I tried growing some water weeds in this area and found out it's too cold. It needs to be above 22 degrees for them. Here's a new spot for my water weeds to grow. Those plant boxes will need to be covered with a little bit of either salt or brine. After the bog buckets mutate, I replace them with spindly grub fruit. I'm going to replant the wheezy worts, and they should mutate in a little bit. The next mutation I go after is thimbleweed. So pretty much exact same concept. I'm going to put it in a room with a farming station and a wheezy wort in the center. So earlier I had brought over some nosh beans, and I didn't realize they were sleet wheat in the way that they actually rot. I think those are the only two plants where the seeds itself rot. So I had to go back to this world, and I didn't have any actually nosh bean plants anymore in this world, which is a bit of concern. Fortunately, there was a few buried objects. I was able to discover some nosh beans. I tried to grow some nosh beans in the really cold area above, but turns out they need to grow in carbon dioxide, and the carbon dioxide was turning into liquid, so that wasn't working. So I'm growing them into the cold area instead of the freezing area. I also need to produce some ethanol because that's input to those plants. They also, because they need carbon dioxide, the machine that creates the ethanol also creates carbon dioxide, so it's a perfect balance if I keep that in the area. Also going to eventually turn that machine off when it produces enough ethanol, because I don't want it to produce too much heat in order to make it too hot for the nosh beans. Anyway, of course, again, it's wheezy wort in the center for mutation eventually. I assume this is a bug, but I've got some seeds on this rocket that's on my home worlds. My dupes are allowed to board that rocket, but for some reason when I go into a planter box, I'm not able to plant them. The way to get around this is to build a bin, get the dupes to put it in the bin, empty it from the bin, and then they're able to plant it. So next is the gas grass, which I got on a space mission. The gas grass, this is definitely going to be the most complicated to grow for two reasons. One is it requires chlorine, and chlorine needs to be chilled quite a bit in order to be put in there. No, I don't want to pump chlorine into it with the zone that I'm in at the moment. So I've got these planter boxes, and I'm fine with my dupes scooping up chlorine from a cold area and then manually pushing it into the farm tiles. It doesn't seem to matter when chlorine goes into the input, whether it heats up, it's not going to turn to a gas or anything like that. So as long as the dupes are handling it and it's not in a pipe, it's not going to break the tile in the same way that it would break a pipe. So I'm going to have to source a spot for chlorine. Luckily I have a chlorine vent in this planet, and I'm going to push that into a freezing zone to turn it into liquid chlorine. Next, I'm planting the balm lilies and dash salt vines. Both require chlorine to be able to grow. The balm lilies actually seem to consume the chlorine, but now that I have access to a chlorine vent, that's not a concern. And of course, don't forget to plant the wheezy worts. The water weeds are in danger of getting too cold, so I'm pumping up some water in a hotter area and getting that to go through in radiant pipes to heat that up. Here it seems the lily balms have consumed the chlorine in the area and they're no longer growing, but luckily I've just turned on a vent to release some chlorine that should fix the problem. Once some chlorine has turned into liquid, I'm getting my dupes to mop it up so that they can manually carry it over to the gas grass plants. I mentioned earlier that there were two things that make the gas grass plants difficult to grow, one of which being the liquid chlorine. The other bit is they require light, and not like bristleberry, a little bit of light, like an intense amount of light. Not even enough for this planetoid to supply if it were having access to the sun.
So I have to have two of these huge lamps in order to be able to do this. And even then, I can only get a few of them in the center to actually have enough light to be able to grow. So I've got a maximum of 3. Alright, so with those lamps on, I'm not worried about the heat because I'm in a cold zone anyways. But the power that it consumes is going to force me to turn off the Red Bull generators, cutting down my amount of space missions. It's this point in the game where I kind of keep everything stable, and I'll just go for a walk for like 10 minutes at a time, or do something else, come back and see if these plants have mutated or not. And if not, I'll go away for a bit and come back. So the water weeds just don't seem to be mutating. Discovered the fact that the brine is actually preventing the radiation from reaching the plant. So I'm going to have to come up with some sort of a solution. What I do is as simple as just upping the wheezy words by 1, and that makes it such that they're able to get the radiation further down. I think it was the fact that the brine was on the wheezy words itself that seems to be effective enough to solve the problem. More chlorine mopping. I also have a switch to turn it on and off when I need more. You don't want to run out of chlorine until that gas grass mutates. So this orientation, the wheezy warts, must have worked because it finally led to a mutation of the waterweed plant. So the gas grass is taking a while to mutate, and there's a couple of reasons, 2 reasons for that potentially. One, either it's because I'm only growing 3, I can only grow 3 with the limitation of the light, or I'm planting a lot more of the other plants. That could be it. Or possibly it's one of the plants that needs more radiation to mutate. So I'm figuring since it's the last one I need, I'm just going to throw a whole lot of wheezy worts in the area and see if that's going to do it. Please, this is taking forever. I planted the gas grass 100 cycles ago, and you can imagine my excitement when I realized the seed has been analyzed, but it's slate wheat. Oh, disappointing. I already had analyzed a sweet leaf. So, you know what I'm talking about. Just disappointment. It's been almost 125 cycles waiting for this thing to mutate, so I'm throwing some more wheezy worts at it. Finally, gas grass produced a mutation, and I've analyzed it. So, there it is. The let's see, it produces 50% more yield. Amazing. Not that I care. I just wanted the achievement. So there it is, colony achievement. Click on this and get this to appear in a moment. There it is, GMO A-OK Achievement. I've analyzed one of each of the mutations, or one mutation of each plant. Thank you.
Okay, time to refund this one because this one took forever. First of all, one of my friends realized how much I love this game, the fact that I was making all these videos, and they were nice enough to paint these paintings for me in the background, so thank you for that. GMO A-OK Achievement takes forever. You need to know how every single plant grows in this game. You need to know the inputs to the plants, the temperature that it grows at, and then you need to throw some radiation at it, which I was able to use some wheezy worts for that. I am so very thankful that it only gets you to analyze one type of the mutation of each plant. Each plant does produce multiple types of variants, so very, very thankful for that. 2 plants that gave me particular problems. One is the waterweed, and the only reason for that is because I didn't realize the brine that was sitting on top of the wheezy worts was not getting the radiation to the plants, so that was easily fixed. The one that couldn't be easily fixed was the gas grass. I had a cold area for chlorine to turn into liquid, so that wasn't a problem, but the power consumption was very heavy, and it was such that I had 2 lamps and I could only grow 3 gas grasses, so it took forever. I had to shut down my Red Bull generators, shutting down some of my space missions. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn those damn lamps off, turn my Red Bull generators on, and hopefully be able to work on some of the other achievements in the game. And that's what the next episode will be based on. I hope to see you then. This is Jer signing out.